Today's workout is built around one idea: to make the target muscles do most of the work. That does not mean the other muscles shut off. That is not how the body works. If I'm doing shoulder raises, the side delts or front delts may be the target, but the upper back, traps, and other stabilizers are still involved. The goal is not perfect isolation. The goal is better emphasis. I want the target muscle doing most of the work, while the assisting muscles help control the movement instead of taking over. Now, if you're ready, let's begin. The first exercise is the barbell bench press. I'm using my cambered bar with a neutral grip. I started with 165 pounds and got 15 reps on the first set, then 12, and then 10. For me, this is where the theme starts right away. On chest press, I want the chest doing most of the work. The triceps and shoulders are still involved, but I don't want them to become the main drivers of the movement. That is one reason I try not to lock out hard at the top. Once I get into that full lockout position, the triceps can take over more of the work. I still want a strong press, but I want to keep the tension where I'm trying to train. The lower part of the movement matters too. I want a controlled descent, a good chest position, and a press that feels like the chest is the main contributor instead of just going along for the ride. Next, I move to the dumbbell incline chest fly. For the fly, I use 70 pounds, so 35 pounds per dumbbell. And I got 12 reps and 13 reps, and then 12 reps. This is one of those exercises where I really have to pay attention to the purpose of the movement. A fly is not supposed to become a press. If I start bending the elbows too much, or just trying to move the dumbbells from point A to B, I can lose the chest emphasis pretty quickly. The main goal here is to feel the stretch across the chest, control the bottom position, and bring the dumbbells back up by squeezing through the pecs. The shoulders are going to help stabilize, and that part is normal. But I don't want the shoulders to become the main thing that I feel. This is also a good example of why the target muscle doing most of the work matters, more than just moving the most weight possible. Heavier is not better if the exercise turns into something else. In the old gym, weights clanging, muscle dreams, pumping hard, feel it burn within, body rocking full of steam. You reflecting the beast inside, veins popping, showing pride, pain speaking, gotta pay the price, chasing goals never lies, pump the iron, feel the heat, push it harder, feel the beat. After the chest, I moved into the shoulders, starting with the dumbbell lateral raise. I used 20-pound dumbbells for 3 sets. At the end of the third set, I did a drop set using 10-pound dumbbells. The target here is the side delts, but this is where you can really see that other muscles are still involved. When I show this from the back, you can see the upper back working too. That doesn't mean the exercise is wrong. The shoulder blades still need to move and stabilize. The traps and upper back are part of controlling the movement. The key is to make sure they are helping, not taking over. If I start shrugging hard, swinging my torso, or using momentum to launch the dumbbells up, then the side delts are no longer doing most of the work. That is why I try to keep these controlled. The weight does not need to be massive. It just needs to create tension where I want it. And with the lateral raises, 20 pounds can feel light when you pick them up, and much less friendly around rep 12. From there, I stayed with shoulders and moved to the dumbbell front raise. I used 32.5 pounds, which is 16.25 pounds per dumbbell. And I got 15 reps, then 14, and then 12. The front delts are the target here, but again, the rest of the upper body does not disappear. They get involved. The traps, upper back, and core all help keep the movement controlled, and that's normal. What I want is to avoid turning this into a rocking motion where my lower back and the momentum are doing too much of the job. By the way, I used to wonder at what angle to move my arms relative to my torso. I don't dweeb out too much about them being straight out or maybe a little wider than shoulder width. I do what the shoulders seem to like. Front delts already got a lot of work from pressing, so I don't need to turn this into an ego lift. I'm using this more as controlled shoulder work. Smooth reps, controlled lowering, enough focus to keep the tension on the front delts. If the dumbbells are going up because I'm leaning back and launching them, that may count as movement, but it's probably not the movement I intended. After finishing the shoulders, I moved into triceps, starting with the cable rope overhead tricep extension. I used 40 pounds for 3 sets and then dropped to 30 pounds for a drop set at the end. I like this movement because it trains the triceps in a stretched position, especially the long head of the triceps. Since the arms are overhead, I get a good stretch before extending the elbows. But this is another movement where the position matters. If my elbows drift too much, or if I start using my shoulders and body to force the rope forward, the triceps lose some of the emphasis. The goal is to let the triceps lengthen, then extend with control. I don't need every other muscle to vanish. I just need the triceps doing most of the work. Doing a drop set at the end of the normal sets is a good way to get a little tricep engagement when they can't handle the full load anymore. Next, I moved on to the cable tricep kickbacks. I used 10 pounds, and I got 13 reps, and then 14, and then 14. This is not a heavy movement, and I don't think it needs to be. The value comes from control and the squeeze at the back of the rep. There are less supporting muscles involved than in the pushdowns or extensions, so the weight has to be lower. With kickbacks, it's easy to go too heavy and start swinging the arm or twisting the body around. At this point, the triceps are still involved, but they may not be the main thing doing the work. I try to keep the upper arm fairly steady and extend through the elbow. The cable gives a better tension pattern than dumbbell kickbacks, especially near the fully extended position. This is one of those exercises where a lighter weight can do the job if the form is strict enough. And if the form is not strict, then the weight is probably just helping me create a small and unimpressive dance routine. I'll save my chair dancing for the clubs.
Stronger, faster every day. No pain, no gain. It's the way. Early mornings hit the grind. Discipline fueling the mind.
To finish the workout, I moved to the cable rope tricep pushdowns. I used 40 pounds and got 12 reps, then 10, and then 8. By this point, the triceps had already been through overhead extensions and kickbacks, so the drop in reps seems to make sense. On this movement, I want to drive the rope down and slightly apart at the bottom. That helps me get a stronger contraction instead of just pushing the rope straight down and letting the shoulders roll forward. This was a good finisher because it kept the setup simple and let me keep tension on the triceps. At the end of the workout, I don't need anything complicated. I need something I can do well while the triceps are already tired. And that brings the workout back to the theme. The goal was not perfect isolation, The goal is to make the target muscles do most of the work. On chest movements, I wanted the chest to stay involved. On shoulder raises, I wanted the delts to lead, even though the upper back still helped stabilize. On triceps, I wanted the elbows in an arm position to keep the work where it belonged. Well, that wraps up this workout. And until next time, have a great day.
Treadmill running, time to fly. No excuse, just take